political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Grand Rising, everybody. Welcome to Black Westchester People Before Politics COVID special and holiday special, and we got a great guest come on the day after Thanksgiving, and that is Dr. W. Franklyn Richardson. Good morning and welcome, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to be with you, brother, and happy for the work that you're doing and the relevance that you're having in our county.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We were talking.
Thank you.
Oh, AJ's a little delayed. Go ahead, AJ.
No, I just said thank you, and definitely our guest is a man who needs no introduction. You pastor of Grace Baptist Church for 46 years?
Yeah, that's it, man.
I was at the 40th anniversary.
Yeah,
and, you were definitely involved with the
party. You was at AJ.
Yeah, the 40. Yes. And at the with the National Action Network, has a new book out right now, and I want to tell us about the book. The title of the book. What the book's about.
The book is "Witness to Grace: A Testimony of Favor." And in the book, I begin to reflect on my journey up to 70 years, 45 years as a pastor, 51 years as a pastor, 45 years at Grace. And I reflect on it through the prism of God's grace. And I talk about how grace has shown up all along my journey, not just on the high peaks, but in the deep valleys. Life is not a plateau. It is both a topography, ups and downs. And I've had my share of ups and downs. I've won, I've lost, but I've never been defeated. And so we just keep positive and keep sojourning. The book goes on and talks about my journey as a member of the National Baptist Convention, General Secretary, and then on to become chairman of the board of the Conference of National Black Churches, which is 30,000 churches in the United States, and the president and the chairman of the National Action Network for the last 15 years. As well as chairman of Virginia Union University. So I've had a blessed life. God's grace has shown up, as I said, in the darkness and in the light. And that book is to communicate that and to stimulate other young brothers and sisters who are coming behind me, as I was stimulated by those who went before me. None of us hop on the scene and think we automatically became the star. We are all in need of mentoring. We need people to come before us. We stand on other folks' shoulders, and therefore we can reach higher because we stand on their shoulders. And so that's what I've tried to say. I've tried to tell our young people that no matter how bad it looks, don't give up. Be optimistic. Go do your best. Apply your best, And somewhere along the way, you'll be able to see God's grace show up, because at the end of the day, everything we achieve is not about us. It's about God has smiled on us. His fingerprint has been on us. And when you have that kind of approach to life, you always you have a sense of joy and optimism.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now
I want to say one more thing real quick. One more thing real quick. Real quick, a shout out. So I want to, you've been an inspiration to me. You probably do not know it. I always say the reason I'm not dead or in jail because there's a lot of older people who invested in me. A lot of my family belonged to your church, and I was in all your youth organization programs. I think he's on the usher board, and so they kept me in there as a youth. I wasn't there, but they kept me in the church, and I was involved in a lot of stuff, a lot of activities that y'all did, taking us to Yankee games and dude ranches and that. And some of the stuff that kept me out of trouble. So you've always been one of the inspiration. And I've been watching you from afar, even though I was never really officially a member of a lot of my family. And shout to Phyllis Hollis Cole, another cousin. I have a lot of family at church.
Wonderful, Brother Woodson. I'm glad to get that history.
So, go ahead, David.
Man, I forgot.
Yes.
I forgot my question.
My bad.
That's all right, David.
My bad. I done had family members. Yelling at me if I ain't shouting out.
Listen, man, I recognize. I know the protocol, brother. You got to do that. You have to do it. But when Dr. Richardson, when you're talking about mentoring and when you're talking about who are the people in your life that mentored you to do the great things that you have done and that you're still doing?
Well, Damon, in my book, I give a litany of those people because I believe none of us get where we go without somebody stepping in times, not forever, but mentors along the way.
Right.
People who show up when we need them to show up and who have gotten us to the next step. I started out with, well, first of all, my greatest mentor was my mother.
Mm-hmm.
She was a powerful escort to faith, and she blessed me. But then I had a mentor as a pastor in Rich, Philadelphia, the president of the university where I went, Virginia Union. I met many people along the way, pastors, great names you would know, Sandy Ray, Brooklyn, and Gardner Taylor, and just many people, pastors, and then others. Earl Graves was a great mentor. He became a dear friend, but he was a great mentor to me. He's responsible for opening up my vision of having corporation impact. I was on the Pepsi board because of him, and ultimately I'm on Comcast board now as a result of his mentoring. People stepping in, Damon, and without them, my life would be drastically different. And all of us need mentors. Like I said, they don't have to last the whole life, but they help you to get to the next stage. Mm-hmm. And so there are people like that who the Lord blessed me to have all along my journey. In each one of the instances, T.J. Jemison for the National Baptist, Y.T. Walker for National Action Network. He was the chairman before me. He was the chief of staff to Martin Luther King Jr. He was my mentor. And then in every phase, like I said, in corporations, Earl Graves, and in the universities, Alex James, just a plethora of men and women who kind of added navigational assistance to my life.
That's great. That's great. And where do you see it with all the issues, and we have issues, in the Black community with our young men, how do we, from your perspective, how can we improve that? Because we are seeing the beautiful advancement of Black women, education and in different positions, but we still see, there are lingering issues with young Black boys that are not being talked about as much anymore, and our issues with young Black fathers not being able to get jobs and training. Where do you see us going, with this new insurgents that's, after the Trump, to help young black be mentors to young black men?
Well, I tell you, first of all, we have to own, and we have to get people who are allies to us to own the fact that the most neglected and persecuted element in our society is black men.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been from we are the most threatening, we're the most persecuted, we're the most marginalized. They always wanted to separate us from our families. They wanted to separate us from our wives. They would take black women always over black men. And while, I'm totally down with Kamala. In fact, I fought and put Biden to get a black woman as a running mate. But at the same time, I recognize that they are not aggressive about solving the problem of black men. Now, let me tell you, you cannot solve black people's problem and leave the black men on the outside.
Amen.
Black men have got to be addressed if we're going to address racism and correct the society. And what you just mentioned about the numbers of black boys who end up in the prison system, who have no support, get no good jobs because they have their education is challenged. You have a few stars, but
right.
the masses of black men, it is a dire prediction unless we change the circumstance. So one of the things I think we got to do is that while we celebrate Kamala, while we celebrate Obama, while we celebrate all the accomplishments we had, we got to raise the flag on the fact that black men are in desperate need, and that there must be a corrective to turn it around. Let me tell you what kind of got my attention. Well, I was a Biden supporter, and I am still a Biden supporter. I hope he helps to heal the nation. But let me tell you, one of the things that did discourage me, and it probably was my own kind of overlooked it, or either I was just too sensitive, put it this way. But when he rolled out his cabinet this week, and he pushed on everybody, he pushed all the buttons. He had the woman in Kamala, he had another black woman, United Nations, he had the Latinos, he had everybody. Wasn't a black man on the stage. Now maybe it will get better. The first rollout is a bad optics. Bad optics. Even if his heart is right, it was a mistake to not have in that crowd of saying what America looks like that there was a black man in it. In other words, America doesn't look like black men. Because he said this is what America looks like.
That's right.
Now, he may come out with some other black appointees, but in the first rollout, it's the continual psychological damage that is done to black men over and over and over again.
Man, you done took us to church today, Doctor. but you absolutely, I mean, I didn't know you was gonna go that deep on us, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because the discussion, I had said to somebody, name a year that the black man had it so great, right? Give me a year that the black man had it so great, but we're not talked about, and in order for us to heal, it has to be a universal conversation of black man, black woman, black family, black community.
The conversation has got to lead to reform. It can't be just a conversation. We have had too many conversations. We got to have conversations that lead to reform. The society is bent against black men. Look at the statistics. Black men are at the bottom of every measurable statistic of success. And yet, we continue to provide backbone for our families and for our communities. We still continue to have voice, but we do it under awesome and despairing circumstances. I mean,
that's right. AJ, you got any questions?
Absolutely. Well, I want to. You've been involved in the civil rights movement and fighting for civil rights for a while. What do you feel has changed, and what do you feel is still the same? I know from talking to my elders, we're saying a lot of stuff now that y'all were saying quite a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, let me say, AJ, that as I was talking to you prior to starting the show today, there's a sense in which our struggle continues, and praise God that we have brothers like you and others who are continuing the struggle that began in that first slave who jumped off the ship and said, "Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave."
That's right.
And we have continued this struggle for up to 400 years of trying to get opportunity and justice in America. And so it's transgenerational. What is being said today, yes, some of it's been said before, and tomorrow another generation is going to be saying it because we will not have reached our destination. And what truth transcends context. Truth is bigger than the mouth it comes out of. Truth is transgenerational.
That's right.
And so when you speak truth, it's going to be, if it's truth, it gets spoken over and over and over again. Hopefully at some point somebody will hear it. And fortunately, I have to say that we have made progress. We have made progress. And the reason why our young people today can reach higher is they stand on shoulders of people. They're where they are because some others have stood on the shoulder. Some others have taken on the mantle before. And we can't stop pushing. We cannot stop pushing. We got to raise these children who are coming up in elementary school right now. We got to deposit in them a determination to not be suppressed. We got one of the great challenges facing us now is what's going to happen to our children as a result of this educational challenge and the virtual impact on our society. And our kids not being able to be up to speed. We were already behind in education. This has accelerated it. And
That's
so
right.
for me, my energy the next few days, the next years, is to focus on the children. To focus on how to. We got a year of damage. Black children, 1 year of damage. But by the time these schools get settled, we've got to make sure that our churches, our community organizations, focus on making repair to that year of damage that's set us behind, and making sure policy and resources get directed to our children in the schools. That's where we got to get us straight. If we don't do that, there'll be a gap in our progress in the years ahead. We got to go back and gather them and give them the tools to fight with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You brought up a great point. One of the Black financial experts had said that this year of COVID has decimated resources in the Black community, has decimated Black businesses. We lost about 40% of Black businesses all throughout the country. And the focus on, and without those Black businesses and Black economics, Black education, suffers also.
Right.
And we have to come together. And you talked about, getting the churches in the communities to really get involved in helping to educate our kids, because some of these families don't even have laptops or internet, to even get on these, to even take the classes.
Well, I'm on the board of Comcast, and one of the things we're fighting for now is universal Wi-Fi, so that in every community, in the rural communities, and that's not just for Black people, poor people don't have Wi-Fi, don't have access. Well, if you don't have access to the network, you can't function. You can't have optimal function in the society.
That's
so
right.
we'll do that. We also have what I hope will expand at Grace for the last 20 years. We've had a program called Freedom School, and it's designed to reinforce Black self-esteem and to supplement the public school education and raise interest in education and raise interest in getting the tools, reading tools, and beginning to love education, to love books. And I'm hoping that Freedom Schools can get expanded through churches all over America. We at Grace, we have a Freedom School partnership with Mount Vernon Board of Education. And for the last 20 years, and we have statistics that show that children that come through Freedom School, they go on and go for today. I have young people who went through Freedom School 20 years ago who come back to the church, and they are now teaching those other children in freedom school. So we have got to find creative ways, not just to rely on government input, but to use our own creativity to salvage our children.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. Because
Absolutely.
I mean, we have the spending power,
Yeah.
right? You know, we spend more than anybody else. You know, why can't we control the educational system and educate our children? Because there's a big talk now, doctor, about, you know, the lack of African studies and African history and knowing, you know, who we are in our history in America, you know, and people are still pushing the public school system. But schools like yours, Freedom School, and other schools, you know, put that to the forefront so these young children know who they are.
They got to, Doc. They got to. One of the great disservices of public education is the mistelling story of African American people. One of the greatest evils, systemic evils, is the job that education has done on Black minds. We have been systematically reinforced and taken away our self-esteem by the story that was told of us. It's his story about us. It's not our story. We were not born in slavery. We are not slaves.
That's right.
Slaves was a condition of our context. Slave was not the origin of our existence.
That's right.
Slavery is something we stumbled into. We started as kings and queens and scientists and architects. We were, and we got stuck in slavery. But they want to act like we began in slavery. We didn't begin in slavery. Slavery is our context, and now discrimination is our context. That don't mean we are to be considered the discriminated. We are simply in certain contexts that they want to dump on us. And unfortunately, not only don't tell African history, they won't tell African American history.
That's right.
They won't own the contributions that Black people made in the history books that are being taught in school today. We got teachers that don't have any kind of appreciation for African American. They don't know nothing about African American history. They have no appreciation for it. Even when they pass rules to make it a part of the curriculum, the teachers don't know nothing about it, and they don't have no reason to think about it. So we got some challenges. We got to call it out. First of all, in order for us to fix things, we got to call out the evil. And that's what you all do with your magazine and with your work. You got to call it out. Because if you keep silent, won't nobody do nothing.
That's right. Now, brother, when we
Absolutely.
saying we have to call it out, and a lot of people don't know, a lot of people are afraid to do that because of retribution.
Yes.
You know, people get in positions that they can make changes, you know, but they're scared of retribution, you know, whether it's the corporate, whether it's in civil service or even in government. You know, elected officials get in and they don't want to speak truth to power because they're afraid of retribution.
That's right. Well, you know, one of the great blessings is that your magazine gives you freedom, in that it's a black business, and you are free to speak out. And let me tell you, that's one of the challenges I have with the Black church and with my colleagues in ministry. A lot of them could say something, but they free. You know, the reason why I spent my life saying all I wanted to say about our plight is I never depended on nobody but my people to support me.
That's right.
You can't get me. You got to get all them people who support me before you can get me. Because I'm free. One of the Black preacher is one of the freest people in the country if he go ahead and exercise it.
Thank you.
Anytime he wants, he can say what, but he got to be calling the truth, though. He got to be saying the truth. But he's free to say.
Yes, sir. It's that, and man, you just dropped the mic on that. Let's just end the show.
Well, let me just say, one of the things Damon and I talk about a lot, we've been hard on the Black preacher of today. You look at our history, church, a lot of the civil rights, a lot of the movements were based out of the Black church. A lot of our Black pastors played a big part in these movements. And today, as we're fighting, we're missing the backing of the Black church to give direction to some of our movements. And some of our Black pastors are not speaking up. They get mad when we say, and I get phone calls every time we have this conversation. But I know my mother taught me one thing: if you throw a rock at a pack, the one you hit is the one that's going to yell. So if we're not talking about you, there's no need for you to complain. But there are a lot of Black preachers who are not speaking up, and they're doing a disservice to their community with this.
Let me say this. You know that Black preachers have never always been together, right? You can't codify them. When Martin Luther King was fighting the civil rights fight,
yes,
only a small segment of Black churches and Black people supported him. There's always been a segment who has a burden for liberation, who sees the call for equality and justice in the life of Jesus Christ. There's some preachers who only see the life of Jesus as an avenue to get to heaven. But I see the life of Jesus as an opportunity to get rid of hell. And so everybody don't see it that way. Everybody has a different viewpoint. But there ought to be enough of us who stand up and speak. And I'm happy to say that I have association with a cadre of preachers. I'm on the board of National Action Network. It is predominantly Black preachers. And they speak up all the time in their communities all over the country. It's led, as you know, headed by Reverend Sharpton, and I'm the chairman of the board. And we're on the ground. We've been fighting this fight, Doc, marching in the streets, shutting down businesses, doing all this. Speaking up when our kids get killed in the streets, whether it's in Kansas or Indiana or Texas, wherever was marginalization, we are speaking. But there's a whole tribe of African American people who don't say nothing. So I ain't got time to focus on that. That's energy that I need to fight the fight.
Exactly.
Everybody's invited to the table. Everybody's not going to come. Everybody's not going to come. So we know we'll spend too much time talking about the ones that don't come. And ignoring the ones who own it. Right now, I can tell you every city in this country that I know a preacher who's leading the fight in every one of those cities. Cleveland, Jawanza Colvin, Dallas, Freddie Haynes, Houston, Ralph West. I go on down the list of preachers who are engaged in the struggle and who are speaking out for justice and standing up for the rights of our people. And as I said, it's never been a majority. It's always been a faithful minority who's been there.
That's almost like everywhere. Even when even in the law enforcement, there's only a group, a minority of Black law enforcement that would speak out against the injustices in the criminal justice system. And in all different types of areas, it's always the minority. The minority group that will decide to challenge and speak truth to power. Let me ask you, what gave you and Al Sharpton and others the idea to start the National Action Network?
Well, the circumstance of our people, understanding that we had to be organized, that my church by itself cannot really impact the national condition of racism. I may be able to do it in my local community, but if we really going to have an impact on the system, the national systems, we had to be organized. We had to come together. So Reverend Sharpton, behind Martin Luther King, Martin King died in 1968. We started the National Action Network 30 years ago, something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but it's about 30 years ago. And so King's been dead for 50 years. And so Reverend Sharpton started the movement in the midst of all of that frustration, and became and he formed it in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr., nonviolent community movement based in the Black church, and he's been faithful to that for all these years that he's been evolving, and he's been evolving. So it was born of need. It wasn't born of I want to be an organization. He was always involved from the time he was a teenager in the boycotts, in the Operation Breadbasket. He was a national youth collector for Operation Breadbasket, and so under SCLC. So he's always been there, and really, the great leadership always is created by responding to legitimate need, and that's why we have National Action Network. It's a response to a need, and nobody else is showing up at the funerals of these kids who get killed. We pay for the funerals. People don't know that. Most of the kids, if not all of them, who get killed, their families don't have no resources.
Right.
We have to go out and raise the money, and we pay for their funerals. And then we stand with those families through the courts. We get lawyers. Ben Crump has been a great partner with us. Before him, Johnny Cochran. All of them have been partners with the National Action Network to fight for justice. This is an ongoing struggle, and we have to continue to build allies. There are a lot of white people who are becoming sensitized and who have been faithful, and without them, our job would be even more difficult. So I applaud Reverend Sharpton's career. He's the most evolved person I know. He is from where he started to where he is just it's remarkable.
That's great. That's great. We talked offline. Before the show started, and black people came out. We showed our stuff this election.
Yeah.
And is there a demand for something for our vote from the Biden administration, from the House? We held the House, and we might take the Senate because black people turned out. Is there a main demand to push forward for what we did?
I think there is. And I do think I'll be disappointed, very disappointed, if Biden does not deliver in this area. He continues to say he will. He said it on the night of the when he accepted the election. He said he wouldn't be there without black people. I mean,
right.
A whole lot of white people don't get there. They forget all about that. They got black support. on the night he said, I wouldn't have been here without black people.
That's right.
And he continues to say that's his position. I think what you just mentioned is critical to him being able to deliver. We got to deliver the vote in Georgia in order for us to realize the full benefit of what we did in the other 50 states. We got everything to lose in Georgia.
That's right.
We got to do everything we can because that make give more value to what we did all across the country.
That's right.
If we can control that Senate, then there's no reason for changing policy, changing things that concern black people. There's no reason for black colleges to suffer. No reason for changing the laws that affect the criminal justice system, passing the Floyd bill in the Congress. Everything can emerge because we have the House. If we can get the Senate, there's no stopping us. And that's why we got to do everything we can. We got to make sure, we got 500,000 people in Georgia, black people ain't vote. And so we got an opportunity to win in Georgia.
That's right.
We got to mobilize the people who didn't vote. Because that's going to be how we get delivered. Now, given those tools, if he gets those tools, there'll be no reason why we won't see radical change in how black people are treated in America.
A lot of people don't understand the political process that without the both houses, it's an uphill battle.
Yes.
For Biden, even in the Obama presidency, when he first won, the Democrats had the House and the Senate
That's
for
right.
the first 2 years, and then we fell asleep mid election, and they took control. Hopefully now that there's more people on the ground. Stacey Abrams down there doing a great job. She's doing a wonderful job, and that more Black people will be educated about the political process. I think a lot of times that's the lack of understanding the political process and how it affects our everyday lives.
Yes, you're right. And the process is, we understand it now. We got to make sure we mobilize. Like I said, we've made this investment, like you said, of all the votes that we were able to get delivered.
That's right.
But they won't mean what they could mean if we don't win this Senate race.
That's right.
Because that will empower what we did.
That's
so
right.
we got to send money. We got to do. I have an organization, the Conference of National Black Churches. We worked in 8 battleground states to get out the votes. And now we have sent our team into Atlanta. Our headquarters in Atlanta. But we got a team in Atlanta going around in the rural where Black people are and getting them to come out and vote. So we're working with Stacey. It's just, I'm just praying that we can pull this off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What would you say to young people that see the work that you're doing, and what would you say to them if they said, Dr. Richardson, I want to be an activist, right? What initial advice? What advice would you give them if a young man or woman came to you and said, Dr. Richardson, I see what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I want to take part in this and affect and change the way you change lives.
Well, first of all, I tell them to open their eyes wherever they are and see the injustice. See it. They got to see it. You can't. You don't become an activist out of making a selection. You're driven by what you see, and if you don't see the injustice, you won't have the determination or the motivation to stay in it, because it ain't easy. And it's a lot easier things to do than to be an activist. But what you got to do is you got to see it. And then when you see it, you got to make a commitment to correct it. And whatever opportunities come your way, sometimes you have to create the opportunity to use your resources. I didn't become a pastor to become an activist. I became a pastor in a traditional sense. I was a member of the church. I was converted, got baptized, and so forth and so on. And then as I began to understand the situation of my people in the country and held that in juxtaposition to what I heard the scripture saying and what I hear about God on the right side of justice, it emerged me. My eyes were open. Oh yeah, I said, whoa, wait a minute. I'm a pastor. I got a congregation. My people out here in dire straits, and I'm not saying anything. Once your eyes are open, you have to decide to whatever you got to use it. That's how you become an activist. You get involved in the struggle as you see it.
Exactly. I think one of the watchers, Patty Duke, he said, PM me so I can donate, AJ. I have to go. See you guys soon. So you got someone who already saying they see what you're doing, brother, and they would like to donate to the cause, and that's great. And that's great that people can see the need for change in our communities. AJ, are you?
Yeah, I want to. This is a conversation that we could have for a long time, but I do want to touch upon your book, because you do have a book, and you are doing media to promote your book, and I wanted you to talk more about it. I know it's kind of telling your story, how you came to be, and some of the experiences. Can you share some?
Yeah, let me
some
give
of that about the book.
The book is important. On Monday, we're doing a big push on Cyber Monday to sell the book. where Black books don't often get the New York Times status. And again, we try to reuse this book as an opportunity to raise another door, open another door, get Black people recognized. And so pastors and clergy, Tamika Mallory, all of them around the country, Remy Sharpton, they're all gathering up to push my book on Monday. And we reduced the price of the book from $27 to $16.95 on Monday alone. And 10% of the proceeds are going to the United Negro College Funds. And so the book is being pushed as an instrument to empower our community. That's what it is.
Good.
Now, the two key stories I want to bring to your attention. One is that I was born in Philadelphia. I was a victim of social promotion. I was in the 10th grade, and I went to my counselor and said, I want to be a doctor, and I'd like to go to college. He said to me, you are not college material. And I said, well, okay, but I didn't believe him. But I went on and went to West Philadelphia Community College. And when I went there, I flunked out. And when I flunked out, I went back to my pastor and said, I want to be a pastor, but I need to be prepared. He said, well, why don't you apply to Virginia Union, HBCU? I applied to Virginia Union. They discovered that I had a reading impairment. In other words, back in Philadelphia, back in the day, if you didn't get no trouble, you get a promotion to the next grade, whether you knew anything or not. And so I never developed reading skills. I wasn't able to comprehend. So they gave me a conditional matriculation and put me in remediation and said, if you can make it this first year, we'll let you stay. Long story short, I did stay. I graduated, went to Yale, went on to earn a doctor's degree, traveled the world, speaking for the World Council of Churches and so forth. And 35 years later, this kid who was unable to get a regular admission matriculation is now the chairman of the board of Virginia Union, and every degree has my signature on it. So, that's the grace of God. That's favor. You know what I mean? And so it's no different. Now you talk about my dad. He was who preceded me. He was born in South Carolina. We're from South Carolina. We came through the port of Charleston. And when he was there in Columbia, South Carolina, he was accused of a misspoke. We don't know that no more. A misspoke to a white woman. Consequently, the Klan started organizing, and my dad had to leave town under the cover of dark to get out, to keep from being destroyed by those people for a misspoke. He ain't do nothing. They say he misspoke. And he ended up in Philadelphia. And he met a terrible guy, and they all hanging out together. His father, who had to leave before him, lived in Philadelphia. And this guy said to my father, to my grandfather, your son is here, he's with bad company, you need to get him out of here. My grandfather said, send him to me. And that's how I ended up in Philadelphia, being born in Philadelphia, because my father had to leave South Carolina. If he hadn't been saved in that hour, a 15-year-old kid in a bad crowd, I wouldn't be existing. My granddaughter said when she reads in the book, she said, and me either, Papa, I wouldn't be. So that's really what we are trying to communicate in the book, that we all have our difficulties, we all have our deep places, our disappointment. I also talk about, fortunately or unfortunately, when the pandemic was going on, I ended up couldn't get the book released because the printers went down, the shipping went down.
Right.
And I ended up in April, May, unable to release the book. So what I did was I raised the question. I went on and wrote an epilogue. And in the epilogue, I raised the question of the pandemic. Where is the grace of God in the midst of the pandemic? And all of this pain that we're seeing, is there any sign that this could be in the highest of God's grace? And I asked him a bunch of questions about that. And I raised the question, is God calling us to refocus?
Absolutely.
We need to start, we not just need to start over after the pandemic, not just start again, but start over.
That's right.
Because the pandemic has pointed out so many of the fake notions of our culture. First of all, the pandemic has shown us that national borders and racial borders don't mean nothing.
That's right.
The pandemic has shown us that we're all vulnerable. We all can be wiped out in a matter of time. The pandemic has shown us that there's no stability in our world. That God, this virus came and they affect nobody but human beings. The dogs still bark, the cows still move,
Right.
the moon still shines, the sun still rays. The only person been affected in this pandemic is human beings.
That's right.
We need to stop and pause and think about in our own individual lives and in our collective life. Are there some messages in this pandemic? And then, that thing this pandemic showed was some fresh compassion. We saw people willing to give their lives to save others with no regard to the color of their skin.
That's right.
Nurses and doctors who suffer. Many of them died providing care for other people. We see churches and community groups lining up, providing food. At Grace, we serve more than 500 people every week, groceries. Yesterday, we had over 1,000 people, fresh, hot dinners that we passed out. So it brought up love. It brought up compassion. Now, the question becomes are we just going to get through the pandemic and be the same old people we were, or are we going to start over again and try to be a people that honors the gift of life and the gift of grace that God's given us? So I say that in the book. And then I do the last piece. I talk about Black Lives Matter. And I talk about how the struggle is continuous. The church has to become a tool for liberation and empowerment. And that if the church doesn't change, it won't be able to appeal to young people and bring them in. So I make some real important challenges. I talk about my experience. One chapter is called a Global Consciousness, Waking Up. I discovered it, the world. I've been all over the world, but I discovered it. And it intrigued me because I grew up in Philadelphia. My world was 6 square blocks. But in my life, Lord blessed me to travel the world and to see the world, and to see the problems and see the likenesses that we have. And so it's been a wonderful journey. I want to share it because I believe our children can benefit from it. I believe that our adults can benefit from, because we all facing challenges. We all facing difficulties. And we have to decide how we're going to get to the place of achievement and accomplishment. That's what the book is an offering. And that's why I encourage those who are listening to you today to join us in this plight to make it a bestseller and help our schools, and at the same time to open the doors for more Blacks can be considered in their writings for a bestseller list.
Yes, absolutely. Send us if you have a press release about what you're doing on Monday. Send it to us, and we'll get it.
I have a team, a marketing team. I'm gonna have them to send it. I think AJ, they even talk to you setting up this interview.
Right. Yes,
I'll make sure that they get you the information.
Yeah, and we'll get it up on the website, and we'll send it out for you along with this interview. So if people want to, see the interview and along with this interview, I think it's great. I bought it this morning, so I went on Amazon, brother. It'll be here on Monday, right? So, I bought it this morning. I said, let me get the book, man. And it's a good hardcover book. I like hardcovers, man.
Me too, man. I love hardcovers.
Exactly. So we got 10 minutes, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming on. Westchester.
Yes.
Here in Westchester. Where do you see us going in Westchester, man? Because we still have, whether people believe it or not, we still have discrimination here in Westchester, right? Even though we're one of the richest counties, right? We still have segregation here in Westchester.
Yeah, underrepresentation.
Yeah, and lack of representation.
Yeah.
Right. And even though they say they're Democrats for us, we don't see us in power positions. I had this conversation with George Lattimore. We don't have, one Black or person of color law enforcement commissioner, and these are people that, claim they represent us, You know, is this, and I hope this is not the same sign we're going to see in D.C. You know, so
well, Westchester has for a long time ignored its Black population, even though, and unfortunately, it was always, for a long time, it was concentrated in Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
The Black population in Westchester is expanding to other communities, and we have to raise consciousness. You know, one of the things that disturbs me, and it didn't just start this administration, but I've never been understanding how there could be such lack of Black presence on the 7th floor of the county office building, or the 9th floor, whatever floor. When I go up there, I'm discouraged by the people who are at the very top, or the person who's at the top not having input from more than one Black. Usually they get one token Black, and he person or she supposed to speak for all the Black people in the county, and they wave that flag all the time.
Right.
But systemically, we are not represented in the structures leading to inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see Westchester is different than surrounding New York City,
Mm-hmm.
because our population is growing. It is significant. It's critical. It's crucial. If we have to in Westchester, in order to have political power, we have to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't just have crazy numbers of Black people that can win every race.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be strategic. We have to navigate to get our results. Because it ain't like we got a big punch. We have a limited punch. Right. But if we navigate appropriately, if we stand up and move together, we can have impact. And we have had impact on the Westchester government. I'm looking for the day when an African American can become county executive. That's doable. Because there is an awakening of white people in Westchester County who are willing. I think it's a moment, though. You know what I'm saying? It's a window. This Black Lives Matter thing. Don't get carried away with how this is. I've been here before. This ain't something gonna breathe out. We got to jump in this with the quick, and whatever we're gonna do while we got their conscience, we got their attention. We got to jump in here now. This is an important moment, Doc. And the windows closing. They ain't gonna be guilty long. No, it ain't gonna happen long. So we gotta get quickly and get demands and corrections for our people. See, in this moment, we don't have to have numbers. We just have to raise consciousness.
Yes.
And we have to call these corporations who are here in Westchester. We want to show up. We gotta require the corporate community in Westchester to show up.
Right.
And I don't know how we do it, because we don't have any real Black institutions that can be the conduits of the resources that Black sensitivity on the behalf of corporations can give to. You got an urban league that's probably limping, not really having a greater impact. Are you still there?
Yeah, we still there.
I don't know why this thing is going. I don't know what. Y'all see?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
We can still hear you.
All right, great. I don't know what happened to this thing here, but let me go back to you. I can't see you. That's the only thing I was saying. All right, we're back.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see me, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Y'all.
Yes.
Give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Let me see.
Not a problem.
All right. I'm just trying. Well, if you
Yeah,
can
I
see
do
me, that's
agree.
the main thing, and you can hear me.
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah, we can see we,
Okay.
we can see you and hear you well. Yeah.
All right, great.
So you were talking about these corporations getting to supporting these.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we find a way for corporations to include African Americans, right? We have to find a way for.
You came in twice.
You're on place. Okay.
Can you hear me? Wait a minute. Let me step out of this.
No,
Can you
you
hear me?
good.
I'm
Yep.
good. Okay.
Yeah,
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, we took care of it.
We have to find a way to get corporate support. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to make that support to the communities. Unfortunately, we have not had all of the support that we needed in this community, and we got to figure out where does it go? You know, we don't have any black schools. We don't have any black institutions to a large degree. We got to figure it out. We really got to figure it out because, like I said, the window's closing. One of the things I'm doing with the Virginia Union, I've been involved in raising money for the school in the midst of this. So we've gotten like $40 million worth of commitments from corporations in this Black Lives Matter moment. And so I think often about how can we leverage that in Westchester County. That's something I would invite you all to think about as well, because I think the moment is right, and America is conscious right now, but I don't know how long it'll last.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
That is something that we're talking about.
Exactly. We talk offline about that one.
Okay.
That is something we're talking about how do we crack that seal and how do we get the support just with us being the major black media in the area, get the support from these corporations that are here.
This is a time to get support for what you're trying to do, and you're the only voice, the only media voice we got speaking on behalf of black people, and so it's important that we find ways to get support in this hour. Right. And not just momentary support, not just buying an ad or a sponsor. How we get institutional and systemic? Right. So it doesn't compromise your freedom to be conscious and to be forthright on behalf of African American people.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we had a conversation because we're on WVOX once a month. Right. And a caller called in and was very not disappointed but upset because the song we use is James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud.
Yeah.
And they basically said we should be thankful because we was talking about the lack of black businesses and even black radio stations here in Westchester. Right. And basically they said that we should be thankful because we was on WVOX. And I'm like, the reason we're on here is because we don't have a black one. If we had a black one, we wouldn't be on here. Right. But and that's lacking too. Right. Black media, we don't even have a black radio. So if it wasn't for social media and the internet, they wouldn't be a lot of black talk shows. I mean, there's a lot of brothers doing great work, like Brother Rashad Bilal. He has a financial show, but it's not on any, it's not on anything major in Westchester. So we have to use these mediums because we don't have a black radio station.
Well, that's true across America. Mm-hmm. It's not a Westchester problem. The shift in media has eliminated. We tried to catch up, eliminated the things we were trying to build. And newspapers are gone, whether black or white.
Exactly.
Magazines gone. Black radio stations gone. Black banks just about gone. Mm-hmm. So we really got to figure out how do we reinvent ourselves so we can be relevant in this current moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it is what you're doing today. I think the future is streaming and doing your shows and building your audience and getting those numbers behind you so that people can, so that corporations will say, oh, I need to advertise there because they got the people. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's I think that's
is there anything? Is there anything we didn't ask you that you want everybody to know about anything that you're working on, about the book, about anything? We wanted to give you a chance to do everything.
Well, I appreciate you all, and I really appreciate this conversation. And no, I don't. I think you've done a great job of going across the landscape, and I'm privileged to be in your presence, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you are doing. I want to encourage you. I want to say to you, you're gonna have misunderstandings. People are gonna have false accusations, but that's the topography of the journey you're on. And so just rise above it. Keep yourself focused, and keep yourself independent. And we need you in Westchester County, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to share with you.
Thank you.
And lastly, I just want you to know that this is an open door. As one of our leaders in the community, if there's you need to get something out, please utilize us to get the word out to the people. I mean, we're here, and I'm enjoying this conversation, and we could have talked about this for another couple of hours. But I want you to know you have an open door to utilize us. Please utilize us.
Thank you, man. I appreciate y'all, fellas. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.
All right now. Bye-bye.
All right now. Be blessed.
Well, we're gonna end this out.
Man.
We want to thank everybody who tuned in. Some people just getting up because of the holiday season and fill their bellies with food, and it just waking up to see us live. Big shout out to Nancy K. Maldonado. I see she's watching, and everybody else that's watching. Thank you for coming on. It was a great show to have Dr. Richardson on, the best that ever did it. And check out his book. I tried to put the link in the is the link in the
it came up in the
please
in the comment section. It came up.
Check out his book, and we're gonna and AJ hit the young lady that reached out to you so we could get the Cyber Monday.
Yes.
And we could that and blast that out, and do some social.
I just want to right. You mentioned Nancy Maldonado. I just want to mention on this Sunday, November 29th at 5 p.m. the family of Jonathan Maldonado will be gathering at 210 Central Park Avenue in Hartsdale for a vigil for the life of Jonathan Maldonado, who was killed by the Greenberg police 3 years ago that day, November 29th. And they're having a vigil that night, celebrating his life as they continue to fight for justice. So I definitely wanted to shout that out. And it's on Black Westchester. Go to blackwestchester.com. It's right there. You'll see it on the cover. Shout to my cousin Phyllis Cole Hollis, who goes to Grace. I see she's tuned in. And we're probably going to, David, since we're not going to do a live show Sunday, maybe can we do a watch party for this Sunday night or something? Just maybe play this again Sunday night or something like that. Maybe we'll try to do that if that's possible.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, try to do that. Yeah. And then you'll catch the whole thing. You'll catch it with a little write-up and a link to the book and everything on blackwestchester.com within the next 24 hours. Hope everybody's having a safe, happy, healthy, and blessed holiday season. Hope your place, like your gathering, should be small. We don't eat too much of the wrong stuff this time of year. And yo, Leslie, we say it all the time. Do what they say to do right now. Wear that mask. Wash your hands frequently. Do all that you do. And we all got to do our part too. We wait for the government to do stuff for us. There's a lot we can do. And as Damon says, eat your vegetables, keep your immune system up. And with that, I'm out, yo. Thank you for tuning in to another home edition of the video show with our special guest, Reverend W. Franklyn Richardson. Check out that book. We will be blasting the link out. Any last words, David?
Nope. That's it, man. Y'all enjoy. Make sure you eat your vegetables. God, and eat your vegetables. Focus on at least an hour of health and wellness a day. And build your immune system. Peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.